All right. Jumping straight into it, guys, because if you clicked on this video, you can see the duration already. Roughly about 2.5 hours. So if you click off right now, I totally understand. But if you are trying to get a kind of in-depth, step-by-step commentary of building your own computer, I'm a total beginner. This is the second computer that I've ever built. And so two of the reasons why I wanted to do this was I enjoy the process, though it can be stressful at times. I was able to successfully build this computer. I'm obviously recording it. I'm recording this intro on my new computer right now, my new webcam, my new microphone. And also, I watched a ton of build guides in preparation to build my own, and a lot of the comments and things I was seeing was people were overwhelmed by the language that's used, megahertz, gigawatts, all these things, right? I don't know what these things mean. And so if you're like me, if you're building your very first computer, if you want to build a computer with your kid, this video is long. There's no music. Maybe you can put some music on in the background, but I do try to kind of walk through every single step. I only have my GoPro. I do try to get the best angles that I can, but it's just very basic, beginner-friendly, down-to-earth. I try to explain as much as I know, share the knowledge that I have. And I will mention as well, I do mention YouTube, the manuals that come with each computer part, as well as I had a buddy that builds computers that I kind of called back and forth a couple of times. I ran into a couple of issues, hiccups here and there. And so this may not be, 100% definitive. You may have to use other resources as well. But with that being said, I also wanted to just show real quickly the first computer that I built. This is the list of the parts. You can kind of pause it if you want to check it out. This is from over 8 years ago. So, if you are just getting into this, you can see the price. This is with the operating system at about $100 for that was Windows 10, and Windows 11 right now is pretty much right around that same price point. So really, I mean, and these parts, you can a person can still buy these parts. These parts are a lot cheaper today. So realistically, if you're building your very first computer and you're kind of stressed out about it, right? It's going to be expensive. You can really realistically do this for, even just a couple $100. You can buy the really kind of cheaper, older generation computer parts, and you can put one together. So it's not like you have to go and spend thousands and thousands of dollars and then hope and pray that that you build it correctly. You can spend a couple $100 to get your fingers wet in building your own PC. And then this is the parts that I used in my current build. You will notice I do have my webcam in here, my microphone in here. So if you're not needing those things, those won't be in the final price. I kind of explained this website that I'm pulling this from in the video. So PC Part Picker, I'll explain that later. It's a great website, but these prices kind of fluctuate, on a daily basis. So this isn't, take this price, with a grain of salt. So as well as I did pay about $50 for the Windows 11 operating system, as well as the USB that I had to put it on. But I think that's everything, guys. Like I said, it's over a couple hours. I had about 5 hours plus of footage, between 5 and 6 hours of footage, and I really tried to cut out as much as I could. I don't have any of the parts. It's just me looking at looking at YouTube on my phone or reading through the manuals. I do try to explain some things with the manuals, pertinent information that you would maybe need. So, hope you enjoy it. If you do stick around, if you don't, I totally understand. And if you are going to build a computer, hey, I wish the best of luck to you. If you have any questions, leave it down in the comments. I can maybe help you out, point you in the right direction, look up resources, what have you. And with all that being said, take care, guys. Good luck, and God bless on your build. Hey, what's up, guys? Today I'm going to be building my new computer and taking you along the ride. And I hope you enjoy it. Mostly this video is going to be for the person that feels overwhelmed building a computer. I'm not in IT. I don't know all the numbers and everything. I watched a bunch of videos on how to build a computer in preparation to do so. And in a lot of the comments, people were saying, they wanted to build a computer, but now they're afraid to, or all the numbers, it sounds like a foreign language to them, and they don't understand everything, and they have to do, a bunch of research, which, again, I've done some of that research, but don't worry, guys. I don't know what all the numbers mean either, to be honest. I will leave a website down in the description that you can go to. It's called PC Part Picker, and when I built our family computer that we currently have about 10 years ago, just a very basic computer when I was going to college, and I used this website. You pick what parts you want, and they tell you whether they're compatible or not, and if they're not, why. So they list reasonings and things like that. So if you feel overwhelmed or something, I'm going to cut out a lot of fluff in this video, but I'll sort of walk you through. I'll just show the whole process, and I'll try to explain the different parts to the best of my knowledge, and I'll get it real, beginner friendly. Again, I don't know what all the megahertz and gigahertz and all these things, I don't know what these things mean either. So don't feel overwhelmed. Our first computer, I think I spent $600 to $800. So yeah, it's a decent chunk of money, but you can build a really small, really cheap computer for your first computer, and the process is the same for all of them, whether it's a $500 computer or a $5,000 computer. The process is pretty much the same. I went to a store called Micro Center, and there too they have employees that they know what parts work with other parts, what's compatible. I bought a bundle, like a CPU, RAM, motherboard bundle, and I'll go through that stuff when I open it. But if you're feeling overwhelmed or anything like that, it's fun to do. It's cool. It's kind of satisfying at the end. There may be hiccups along the way, but it's a learning process. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and we'll get started. So first off, I'll go over the parts that we got and somewhat walk it through beginner style. This is a motherboard. That's kind of like the brain, or actually it's a motherboard. All the pieces plug into this, and that's how they all communicate and work and whatever. This is what I was talking about, guys. All these numbers and stuff, I don't know what that stuff means, but again, the website and the guys at Micro Center, I bought a chip that goes into this motherboard, the computer chip, the CPU it's called. That's the computer chip. So that's this. It's an AMD Ryzen 9. I know there's AMD chips and there's Intel chips. So growing up, we always had Dell computers. Those are Intel. And the computer that we had that's almost dead now is an i3 chip. So this is a big upgrade. There's i3, i5, i7, i9. So I think this is compatible to like an i9. So AMD 3, 5, 7, and 9. And this is the brain of the computer, the CPU, the computer chip. And that'll go into the motherboard. All of those, that goes into the case, which will open. The case is the housing that holds everything, right? The big tower, the tower. This is a GPU graphics card, like G for graphics. Computer chips will come with graphics in them. My original computer, the i3, just going to college, I didn't have a graphics card in my computer in the tower. So doing surfing the web and even like doing YouTube and stuff, you don't need a graphics card per se. The chip has graphics in it already, but for like gaming and stuff like that, if your kid wants to game, or if you're a gamer, they suggest getting a graphics card. So this will help, I think, with YouTube and editing and whatnot. But so here we got the RAM, RAM. This is what allows you to multitask on your computer. The more RAM you have, the more things you can do all at the same time. You can have Google up and YouTube up and gaming and everything going at the same time. Multitasking, that's what the RAM does. The first computer that we have has 8 gigs of RAM, two 4 gigabyte sticks. A gigabyte, I don't know how to really explain that, but this is 32 gigabytes, so 8 times. I won't need all this, but this is what I got. It was with the bundle. So the CPU, the motherboard, and the RAM were a bundle together. Our storage is how much stuff you can have on your computer, all the different files, pictures, videos, Word documents, Microsoft Excel documents, all that stuff will go on your storage. They call them a hard drive. You know, back in the day it was a hard drive. Now this is a hard drive, but it's an SSD. Means it's faster. I don't know all the tech terms for it, but this is a 2 terabyte SSD. Right now in my computer I have a 1 terabyte hard drive. So this will just be faster. You can access all of your files and media much quicker with the SSD. Boot up, how long it takes the computer to boot up, stuff like that. If you have SSD storage, it goes much quicker for all that. This is a power supply. This is what plugs into the wall and brings all the electricity into your tower. This is where we plug all the parts into, so from the motherboard to here to get the power. It's called a power supply. And then this is the CPU cooler, they call it. It's like a big fan. Nowadays gamers and expensive builds, they'll have liquid cooling with pipes running through the tower. Sometimes it's colored liquid, right? I think it's water and it might be some special liquid, but I don't know anything about that and I didn't want to mess around with it. So this is a CPU cooler fan. The most nervous part for me is putting this. You put this on the computer chip and you put it on with thermal paste. It's like a glue. It's like Play-Doh glue. And when you're dealing with expensive computer parts, that's what makes me nervous about building the computer. I was gonna pay Micro Center to do it, but I enjoy it, so I've watched videos on how to do it, and people say it's not that big a deal. And again, I built our first computer and was able to figure it out. But yeah, putting the thermal paste on the computer chip and then putting that on, that's the most nervous part for me. And then getting the Windows operating system as well. So that's all the parts. I am gonna read the manuals when I open this stuff up. I'm gonna open up the motherboard. That's what I've seen in videos. They'll lay the motherboard down and start putting each part into the motherboard. Then when you have the motherboard kind of filled out, then we'll get it into the case. But I'm probably gonna clip all the reading the manuals out for you guys. Oh, one more thing I forgot. They always go over what you need to build a computer. And legitimately just the standard screwdriver is what they say is all you need. We got some scissors here to open boxes and anything we need to cut. And then for cable management, which you'll see why, I bought just these on Amazon, less than 10 bucks. Little Velcro strips. A lot of people use zip ties. the Velcro strips you can do and undo real quick, right? Just wrap these around the cables. I got 60 of these in a pack for like $8 on Amazon. This is 6-inch, they have 8-inch. I didn't know which one I would need, but I'm hoping that these 6-inch ones work good. The zip ties, you know, if you want to readjust it, you can't really. You got to cut it and use another one. A lot of people like zip ties, and I used them in my first build, but then I saw these Velcro strips, and you can undo them, you know, if you want to move your wires or add a wire or whatever later on. So that's pretty neat. And that's all that we'll be using for tools. And as far as I know, the thermal paste, Micro Center employee said the thermal paste came with the cooler. Got some stickers with the motherboard. Wi-Fi antennas. I don't know that I'll use these. I think you can get wireless internet to it. Oh, but I got a cable. And then here's some cables that I'll figure out. I'm going to use the quick installation guide so that we know what's going on. Because now I'm starting to remember how much I don't know about this. But the quick installation guide will help us. Alright, this quick guide is only for common personal computer assembly for detailed installation information. Okay. Yep, so right here, I mean, they even have a QR code that you can scan. It'll take you to YouTube, probably show you exactly how to install this stuff on the motherboard. But first this is the CPU with the thermal paste, the cooler. This is the RAM, and then how to plug all these things in. So we are going to be doing that. But when you do open these boxes, make sure you get everything, because these things are important. This is M2 locker. These little bags, there's like a little screw in them, and I think it's for to screw down the SSD, but we're gonna find out. Or it's to hold up the motherboard inside the case. I only have one camera too, guys, so there's not going to be sweet angles and all this jazz. So, I apologize about that. It's looking pretty gnarly. And like I said, I don't know what I don't know what everything on here is, but as I said before, don't let that hold you back. So let me get this closer. Whoops. Okay guys, so the CPU goes in here, and so we open this up. And this is a bunch of little tiny, like microscopic pins. So this is like super important. You don't want to get anything in there, but that's where the CPU chip is going to sit in there. And we're just going straight down. So the CPU is just going to feed in there, and they show you this gold triangle. I'll try to get the footage of me just setting it in there, okay? But I gotta get the CPU out of the box first. A razor blade would probably work good on these. AMD. Certificate of authenticity. Read this first. So again, right in here too, guys, step by step. It's easier than IKEA furniture, okay? We got the step by step pictures and everything. Okay, we flipped it open. Align pin 01 indicators are located on the top left corners of the socket and processor. Hopefully we don't mess this up. So I'm seeing the gold triangle on the CPU right up there. I don't know if you can see it, but hopefully you can, right on the top there. I'm just not seeing how it goes on in the board. Oh, and in the board, if you can see, it's not a lot of light. Right there is the gold triangle. So that gold triangle right there, we are going to line up with the gold triangle right in there. So we're going to lay this down right in there. And you want to be careful with this. Does this see this? The computer chip has the pins, or I don't know if it's pins, but it's like little digital. See, this sets on those pins that I showed you in the motherboard. So that's like super important stuff. You don't want to get dirt or anything on there. So that's kind of an important part. So we'll set this. I'm going to try to hold the camera so you guys can see. This is going to set right in here. And I don't think you push down on it or anything. Does the cover go back on? I think the cover goes back on. Maybe. Oh, the black cover part comes off. And then it comes back down. Okay. So like that, and this is the lock. So I believe just like that. I hope so. Yep. So this was the cover, and that goes like that, per the instructions, guys. And then this is what I was talking about, the thermal paste. We put that right on the back. This is the chip. And what it does is this is, like I said, this is the brain, the computer chip, that little square we put in here. When your computer's running, this gets hot. This thing's thinking and doing all the work and all that stuff. So this cooler fan, this big fan, it gets air, and that's how it cools this down. And the thermal paste kind of it's sort of a glue, but it's also like a conductor, or I don't know what you call it, but it gets the cool temperature onto the CPU. And so they say to use this dot, and if you look up videos, there's all different kinds of debates and discussions about what the right way to do it is, but you put this dot on there, and then when you put this fan on top of here, it's supposed to spread out that dot onto here. And you can look up videos online about thermal paste and CPU, and people have done different experiments and tests, and they'll put it on, they'll put the fan on, and then they'll take it off, and they'll show you the glue, kind of the paste. And people have ran tests on the dot or an X. I think we're going to do an X. I think we're going to do a little X and maybe some little dots. That's what I've seen, one version of it. So that's what we're going to do. All right, so the fan,
Oh yeah, at the beginning of the video, guys, I'll put up a photo of my old build next to my new build from PC Part Picker, and so the computer guys that know, they can look at it. But and for those that don't know, I'll put the pricing and all that stuff so you can kind of compare. All right, so we got 2 fans that came with it, and then this is the actual thing, and this is what goes on that metal plate right there. Is what goes on the CPU, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, warning, please peel off label before you use it. So that's what the thermal paste in between this metal and the CPU. And this is all metal, like this. There, I'll get this out of the bag so you can see. So the fans are gonna go on here, and blow, gets air in here, all this metal, and it goes through the metal down here to the bottom. And then that's gonna be on top of the CPU. And actually, we may have to install the RAM first. This is pretty big, and I'm not sure exactly how much space it's going to use. According to this, you should put the CPU cooler on next, and then the RAM. Where's the English parts? Well, this is the quick guide, so that's why. It has the RAM slots right here, but this isn't the English. I'm not sure. This doesn't show the what number it is and what order. But this is just for the CPU and the fan. But you can tell by looking at this fan and the fan that we got that it's different. So the fan also came with instructions. We're going to look at that as well. But we're 35 minutes in and we have the computer chip into the motherboard, so that's where we're at. And no worries, because we got all night. Maybe I'll put on some music in the background. Thermal, right? This must be the thermal paste that they said comes with it. Maybe, maybe not. There's a bunch of different parts in here. Oh yeah, there's a tube of thermal paste in there, and then there's a whole bunch of nuts and bolts and plates, so we're gonna have to read the instructions. Right here, Peerless Assassin. Okay, so we got all of our parts. This is in Chinese. Actually, let me go through and make sure we got all the parts, I guess. We have the fan, they call it the heat sink. The big part, not the fans. It comes with 2 fans, and the cooler, they call it a heat sink. That's like the technical name for it, I think. Heat sink, 2 fans, fan cable. Let's see what we got in here. So this heat sink has parts for Intel chips, which we're not using. We're using the AMD, remember? So we don't even need these. But we read the instructions and we find that stuff out. What are these? Fan clips. Okay, four fan clips. 1, 2, 3, 4. Put those there. Fan cable 1. That is this, I believe. Cable. Okay. Put that on there. So open this up. We got our thermal grease, they call it. Thermal Right TF7 thermal paste. So we got that. Let's see, the straight ones are the Intel brackets, so we'll put those with the Intel plates, so we don't need those. And we will get these two AMD AM brackets, AM4. I'm gonna take my scissors and just get those ones that we need. They come together. These two are the Intel. The pink ones are the AMD. That's what we're gonna be using. So I'm just gonna cut that one off. Put the Intel stuff with the Intel stuff. And so there we have it. So this is from the actual heat sink. So we got the AMD one, Intel, and then fan warning. So we're not gonna do the Intel ones. We're gonna do the AMD ones. It says remove plastic brackets, keep the back plate, install the metal brackets with the screws and plastic standoffs. So I gotta hold the camera with one hand, so try to do this. I'll show you guys what I can, but I'm walking you through it too. So we remove these, and we're doing this right on the motherboard box, guys. That's what all the other videos, that's what they say. We'll let that metal back plate fall down onto the box though, because these 4 screws go into that. We got to keep them because, well, we may not use them, but we may use the ones that came with the heatsink, but we'll keep them just in case. So we remove the plastic ones. Let's see, we remove the plastic ones, and it says install the AM45 metal brackets with the screws and the plastic standoffs. So it looks like where those plastic brackets were, we put these on with the standoffs and the screws, and they'll screw right into the back plate. Apply thermal grease on CPU, install the heat sink, and install fans. So there's not a whole lot of pictures with that, but it looks like the fans go on the outsides, and that's why we may have to put the RAM in first so that we can fit the RAM sticks. But once we get these can screw in and unscrew, so I guess if we run into an issue, we can deal with that when we get there. So let's get those in. So these pink ones, guys, are pretty much, they're universal, the same size and everything on. There's no like up or down or anything. I think there's something in the middle, like right in the middle. So these go right on where those 4 screws, they just sit right there. And then we put these. There's a little screw here in the middle, and by the picture we put these up like this, so I'm guessing maybe the heat sink will connect to these screws. We'll find out, but it looks like they go like this, facing outwards like that. I'll put these screws in and see if the back plate hopefully maybe the back plate just stuck on there, I guess, because these have to screw into something, right? And they are screwing into something, so pick up this board and see. Yep, look, the back plate it just stuck on there anyways. Oh, it is screwed on with those inner screws. And then these corner ones, I think, are the ones that we're screwing into. Okay. Pretty nifty. Yeah, it looks like these inner screws are the ones that are holding it to the motherboard on the back. And pretty much anything that you got to screw down, guys, it's just kind of hand tight. You don't want to over tight anything here with all these components, expensive components and whatnot. And if you want to kind of, these ones don't matter because it's just, you know, two sides. But if it was four or something, then you'd want to do kind of one corner a little bit, another corner a little bit, and then the rest of them, and get them tightened evenly, basically, is what I'm saying. But these things just hand tight down to the, they got those pink plastic spacers. Those are pretty cool, I think. Kind of like the pink. But yeah, just nice and hand tight there. Not too tight. Okay. And then from there, it's the thermal grease on the CPU, and then the heat sink with a screwdriver. Oh yeah, so the heat sink will go in. These big screws will go onto these little parts that are sticking up. And be careful how you handle these, guys. You don't really want to bend any of this. You know, these metal, it's like, you can kind of hear it's metal layers, kind of like stuff. So just kind of be careful on how you handle these parts. Oh yeah, I need the thermal paste. So let's see. I won't install the fans right away. How in the world is that gonna work? Install the fans. What does that look like? Oh, with fan clips. Holy smokes, so they don't even... How in the world do you do that? I guess we can do that afterwards. And which way do they go? Alright guys, so to my knowledge, when you look at these fans, this is the front, this is the back, and from what I'm looking at the picture, these fans suck air in from the back and push it through the front. So when I put them on this heat sink, I'm going to put them like this. The back here. Like that. And I got two fans, one for each side, so I'm actually going to watch a video right now to make sure that I know what I'm doing. These also came with fan clips, so these aren't even screwing in. There's nothing really on here that the fan can screw into. And so there's two fans, and we got these 4 clips. I'm gonna have to look up the YouTube video on how to do this because the instructions are not showing. Maybe it's not as good as IKEA furniture, but if you're mechanically minded or engineer minded, you probably can figure out how these go on. But I'm gonna pull up the video. And this is just a setback, guys. You can do this too. Don't worry about it. If you run into something that you're not 100% sure on, just look it up, right? I do have a buddy that I can call too, that I'm sure you have a friend that you can call that knows about computers if you run into something like this. But as I stated at the beginning, guys, it's a learning experience. This is part of the fun. Alright guys, so I looked it up on YouTube. Literally, there is a YouTube short by Zach's Tech Turf.
Here's how you install it on an AM4 and
It's like 30 seconds long. Shows you exactly how to do it. I did look through the comments, and somebody said they had to remove the heat sink to get their RAM on the motherboard, and then reapply thermal paste and put the heat sink on. So we are going to jump to that step. I'll have to watch this short a couple times because you got to plug the fans into the motherboard and everything. So we want to make sure everything is in the right place, situated properly. So, because as I stated, the fans, see this fan plug-in on the motherboard. So you want to make sure that you have this, what's the word? You want it angled correctly or in the right positioning so that this can plug in. When you have it on the heat sink, and say this cord is up here and you need it to plug in way down here, you don't have enough room. Now it looks like this cord can come out of here a little bit, but you want to keep that in there. It looks like it keeps it nice. And so, you know, like I said, as long as you get the airflow correct, then you're fine. The orientation, that's what I was saying. We want to get the orientation correct so that we can plug this into the motherboard. So we'll do that, but the biggest thing is the airflow comes in through the back and out the front. Also in that video, the CPU, they got one fan on the outside here and then one in the middle. So we'll figure that out as well. Okay, but we got to do the RAM first. Okay, RAM. All right, guys. So I had to look up another video on how to do the RAM because there's 4 slots here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have 2 sticks of RAM. And in most videos they'll say slots 2 and 4, right? And you're like, okay, well, which one? So on the motherboard, a lot of stuff on the motherboard, guys, is there's going to be little labels. CPU fan 1. A lot of this stuff, pump fan 1, system fan 1. A lot of this stuff, JRGB 2. There's going to be labels. So here they have DIM A1, DIM A2, DIM B1, DIM B2. And this says first 2, A2 and B2, so that's like slot 2 and 4 like they say in the videos. But so if you're wondering, so we're gonna click in slot 2 and 4 our RAM, and these you just click down, and when we push the RAM in, they're gonna click in. And so guys, when you're putting these in, there's a little slot in the middle here. When you put it in, if you're wondering which direction, it's not quite in the middle of the stick. So when you put it in the board, you will know that it cannot click down. You'll see it. When I put this in this way, and say like, even when I set it here, you can see it's not quite lined up with that. It looks lined up, but it's not. When I set it in there, I can see that notch is not going over that slot. So then I know I have to turn it around this way, and I'm going to put it in this slot 2 because that's the one it said to go in first. So I can see it already sitting over that part in the middle. I don't know if you can see it from the camera, but that's the way it goes. And then just kind of apply pressure on both sides. Push down quite a bit. You got to apply quite a bit of pressure and it'll click in there. So that is the first one. And then the second one, same thing. I'm guessing it goes this way. Yep. So same way. Push down and make sure you get both clicks. So that fan, the fan and the heat sink and the fans are going to kind of sit above this. So that's why we wanted to get these in here first. So now we're going to apply the thermal paste and get the heat sink on. My GoPro's at about 10% battery right now, so I'm going to, I think I have another battery, so I'm going to try to put that in and we'll reconvene. If not, I'll charge the battery and I'll just leave this here. All right, guys, some technical difficulties. Looks like the extra battery I had went to an older GoPro and it does not fit. So I have this plugged in and we are at 12%. We're going to see if this battery, if this will charge while it's recording. It doesn't show that it is. 13%. Well, we're going to hope so. We'll find out. But until it dies, we charge on. Okay, so we got the RAM. We're ready for the thermal paste and the heat sink. The fans that go on the heat sink just go on with these clips, and I still have to figure out how that works. So, but we're gonna do that. We are. I have to figure out which way I'm going to set the fans. I will say that I'm not sure exactly how this is going to fit in the case yet, but this thing on the back, this used to, like, this cover plate where these plugins, this is where you plug your screens and your USBs, HDMIs, USBs, the internet, keyboard, all that stuff. That's where you plug in on the back of your tower. That's what it looks like. So that, at least I know that's the back of the computer, right? So I think, I don't know how I'm going to do it. Usually I think you pull air in through the front of the computer and push it out the back. The airflow. The case comes with 6 fans, but as far as the heat sink specifically, I'm thinking we want the air to go out either the back or go up the top. So again, this is going to be the back of the case, so at least we know that. And then I'm assuming this is going to be the top. So the back and the top, that's where we want the air to go out of. That's just my thought process. Again, the magicians in the comments can correct us. And the cool thing about a lot of this stuff, guys, like the fans, you can change that afterwards. You know, fans you can move around and unscrew and rescrew and whatever. So that's the cool thing about some of this PC building stuff is if you mess up, you know, some of these things can be fixed, right? A fan, which way a fan is facing, which way it's blowing, right? You can change all that stuff and plug it in and plug it out. Now the CPU part, that's kind of, again, but I don't know how much a person can mess that up. You just set it in that block, that square, and they make them now so that it's pretty easy. You just set it in there and it's good to go. So I don't know how much you can mess that up, but the RAM, if you try to shove it down and that opening isn't in the right spot, then yeah, you can break something and you'll have to buy new RAM sticks. But again, just be careful with that. But so some of the stuff, not everything is completely fixable, but fan placement or whatever, that can be fixed, right? Hope you guys are enjoying the video. So the thermal paste, I think this top just screws off, comes off like that, and it looks like we're just pushing this. Yep, there's thermal paste glue in there. when we push that syringe type thing, it doesn't come out, and it's not very far to push, so maybe they give you just the right amount. But we're gonna it's definitely coming out. I can see it, so I'll try to get the camera close. And like I said, I think I'm gonna do an X pattern with maybe 4 dots. That's what we're gonna go with. And again, this is the part that makes me nervous, guys. Micro Center will build a computer for you for $250, and that's what I was gonna do, because this is what freaks me out, right? You have a CPU that's a couple $100, or you know, whatever it was, couple $100, $300, and the heat sink, right, and the motherboard. What I have seen in videos is that thermal paste isn't conductive. So I even saw a video of a guy that put a whole bunch of thermal paste on his CPU, and he showed where he put the fan down. He put a big huge blob on here, and he put the fan down, and it spread out way over off to this on over the sides. And supposedly he's saying that it won't damage things in here. So that's what he said. So that kind of gave me some more confidence. But we are going to, I'll try to keep, I got to hold the camera, so I'm going to try to get this for you guys. Maybe I can put it on this box. Let's see what you're looking at. That's not very close. I'm going to try to get it for you guys. I'm going to try to do an X. Maybe I'll use my pointer finger here. But it's definitely coming out when I push it down on this, so we'll just give it a go, guys. Can't know it if you don't try it first, you know. We'll just do this little line here. That's pretty nice. And then from this side, see if this is a good angle for you. It's kind of sticky, it looks like, maybe. And once we put the heatsink on here, it's going to spread out. You can kind of see that it's like Laffy Taffy, like at the ends there. I don't know if the camera's picking that up. But then we'll put just little dots here, if we can do that. Yep, little dot. Little dot. And it is kind of smaller. Well, this is not working out too well right here, guys, but I don't want to use too much, so I'm trying to be careful with how much I'm using here. But again, I saw the video of where like the guy overdid it, so this is looking pretty good in my opinion. Maybe I'll use the cap to spread. Here, I'll use one of these plastic, the plastic things that came with this top one here. This top one here kind of got crazy on me. I don't know if the camera will pick that up or not, but I'm just gonna move it ever so slightly. That's all gonna spread out when we put the heatsink down, so that's what we're gonna go with, guys. Again, that was the part that made me the most nervous about building this PC, so I think that's gonna be fine. All right, so then again, make sure we take this off. That short, he took it off right at the beginning, the one I was telling you about. He said, take it off right at the beginning so you don't forget. And then at least this is symmetrical, so there's no kind of getting it right or wrong. Remember, these two screws, the big screws right here, are going on to those little screws that were poking up from the AMD. These AMD studs that we put in, right? So those screws are going to set right on top of there. And so I'm just going to put the camera up here because I want to get it even. if I had my head mount, I would show you guys, I would get you closer, but this is what we got for now, because I just want to make sure that I get this nice and even on here. Okay, so I had to push down pretty hard to, I could see a space in between to actually get the screw seated. So now they're seated, but I did read I read in one of the video comments not to screw them down evenly. Again, I'm doing a little bit one side and a little bit the other, and I read that somebody screwed down one side really tight and it snapped off. So I'm not sure exactly. There's some springs. I'll try to there's some springs right in here, so you can see that screw on the bottom. I had to kind of there was a little space in there, and I kind of had to push down, right? And there's springs right in here. So I'm gonna tighten this down kind of until maybe they're compressed. I don't want to put too much pressure. So again, guys, the pressure is spreading out the thermal paste, and I know we want it tight on there, but we don't want to just, you know, push all the thermal paste out. I haven't screwed too tight yet, so there's a lot of springs in one of the sides, so, and it's still screwing pretty easily. So I'm thinking, you know, once you start getting the tension, as I screw in, those springs are getting tightened. So once we get to the place where the springs are closed in, it'll start to get, the pressure and tension will get tighter. So we'll probably stop around that point. Okay, so they're both feeling pretty tight, guys. And this fan, or the heat sink, doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. So I think that's good. And so then if I bring you down here, you can kind of see where the heat sink and these ram sticks line up. So I suppose there's a little bit of space here, but one of these fans is supposed to go here, guys. And so you can see right there, that's directly above the ram. So had we put the fan on, the ram would not have, we wouldn't have been able to put it in. So, but these fans go on with these again, these little clips, so there's no screws or anything. So it's, once I figure out how to do it, it's gonna be pretty simple. But again, with the way that this is set up, remember this piece is the back top of the computer, so we're gonna have the fans, one fan here and one fan here, and blowing out. All right, guys, so I had to watch a video on how to do this. My wife kind of helped me, and I will kind of explain what we got going on here. So I got our middle fan in already, but what I learned was actually this label is the front, and it pushes air out through the back. So the airflow is going to be through the front and out the back where the label is. And basically from the video, we want the cable out the bottom right. So I'll show you guys in a second. My wife's gonna help me with the camera. But so with this out, these clips, like so, they go in the holes. The ends go in the top and bottom hole. You just pull them through like that, so that this part is going towards the back, and we are going to bend that over the metal of the heat sink. So I'm not a big fan of that. I got the middle one in already. I'll show you that on the camera, but I just wanted to show you exactly how these go through. You just make sure that you have the metal piece coming to the back. So you put the edges just in the holes, the top and the bottom hole of the fan. They just kind of click in there, pull them, and then again this part goes where the air is going, to the back. So we have both sides on here, and when we put this next to the heat sink with the cord on the bottom right, these are going to clip back behind. They're not stretchy, but you know, you can put some tension on them and you pull them, and you'll see. I'm gonna show you when my wife comes, but I don't like that, guys, because like I said, you want to be careful with that heat sink. I guess because it's all metal pieces, that if they bend or something, I guess it's probably not that big of a deal. Maybe the magicians again can leave that down in the comments. Is that a big deal if the heat sink, because when you pull these on, like I said, I got the middle fan in already. It kind of seems, I don't like how it sits. I have OCD, guys. Maybe that's why. But I'm not a fan of how these connect on to the heat sink. Most stuff on the motherboard or in the tower screws on. Like I think the case fans will screw into the case, but these with these metal brackets, they just click in. They just with tension it connects onto the heat sink. So I'll show you guys that in a second. So, and actually here's another thing, guys, I was looking at on this heat sink. These nubs on the top are not exactly the same. They're in a pattern. This one kind of looks like it's smushed or broke. I thought it might be defective or broken, but it looks like the patterns are like that. So that must be how they are. But you can see on this middle one, this fan I got in the middle now, see that plastic bracket that I was telling you about? It hooks to the back of the heat sink. See that? See this, like this? This you pull back to the back. See that? And I feel like you might bend one of these metal pieces, but you know, it holds it in there tight. It's in there tight for sure. There's one on both, there's one on both sides. So my wife got a flashlight in here. See if, so you can see that's how it's held in. So my wife will hold the camera and I'll get this second one in, and then I'll show you what to do with the fan plug-ins. With the heat sink, we got this little adapter, it's called, and the two fans will plug into these two sides, each fan plug in, and you can see the little groove here, so you can't really mess it up. You just plug them in with the grooves like that. Plug each fan into this, and then this part again with the groove, the PC fan on the top of the motherboard. Right in there it says CPU fan. Might not be able to see it, but right below these prongs right here where my finger is, it says CPU fan, and that's where we'll plug it in. So each fan, like I said, you want to have it on the bottom right, and we're going to plug these into the adapter, and then we're going to plug the adapter into the CPU fan, and then the extra cables, that's going to be cable management in the case at the end. So take that, I'll turn this around. Can you see?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, guys, this is the back, or this is the front, pulling air through. We got our hooks set up like this, so that it's in the front. Plug-in is in the bottom right, and this one might have to sit a little higher because of the ram on the bottom here. So it might, the fan, it has to sit a little higher than the first one, but he said in the video that that's fine. So I'm gonna kind of just rest it on there, on the ram, because it's plastic. Maybe I'll bring it up just a little bit. And then you can see here, guys, this, we're just gonna pull this back until it clicks in. There, it's holding on there. We just pulled it back. Do the same to the back side. And there we go. Again, guys, I'm not a fan of, you know, these metal things holding on to that, but I'm assuming these are kind of okay to bend a little bit. That's just my assumption. This is just to get air onto the CPU. So I'm assuming that this is fine. That's how it came manufactured. So, and there's no screws or anything. So that's how we hook these ones up. So the front one, the middle one, and we're gonna be taking air through the front all the way through to the back. This is the back top of the computer tower. All right. Okay, guys. So we got the fans on. I'm gonna try to show from down here our adapters. We have both of our fan cables here on the back, and you can see the little grooves on the bottom of the fan plugs, and then the adapter, you can see right here on the bottom, has this little groove. So those are actually, those just go together. So actually, it might be better if I put them this way. So this part is going to go on to this part. There, you can see the back kind of, maybe that's better. Clicks in right like that. And same with the other one. We'll do the back. So you can see the grooves here with this bottom, with this adapter piece on the bottom. You can see where the two pieces click or go together, and just clicks in just like that. So we have these two, and then the part that goes onto the CPU, this same thing. It has these grooves on the bottom, and you'll see on the CPU fan plug-in where that has it as well. Here, maybe this is a better angle, right up from the top here. I need to go right there, and the heatsink's kind of in the way. You know, you want to make sure that you get them. You want to make sure that you get these kind of straight in the right spot, so you don't bend any of those prongs. Once you get them in the holes, it should just go pretty good. And so I can't even. It's not going to be the best angle, guys, but okay, there. Okay, there, I think I got it. So you can see these two, and we were right back there. So it's kind of hard, but like I said, you guys be able to read on the CPU fan, and just line up the holes with the prongs. Okay. All right, next we are going to put the memory in. Okay, all right, guys. We're putting in the storage now, the SSD drive. And I had to make sure what we were doing here. So there's an open slot here. And you can see by the SSD that what I've seen in videos is these slide into here, and this little gold half circle will go on a screw that looks like this. And I don't know, I misplaced the big manual that came with the motherboard, and the little quick step guide is not showing exactly how to put these on, and neither is the manual that comes with the SSD. So what I'm finding on YouTube is, and actually there it's labeled here, so this says M24, and this is, you see these numbers 3, 2, and 1. So these are heat sinks. This is a nice cold piece of metal that my finger's running on, and so is this. So what I'm seeing from videos is we want to use this slot that's closest to the computer chip, the CPU that's underneath our heat sink. And so we're going to take these screws off and put it in there. And these screws that come with this, it doesn't even fit in here, so I'm not sure. The screw fits in here, so I'm thinking maybe this is a slot for a shorter thing. But when I put our SSD like here, it shows coming to here. So maybe that just tells me that that's not even where it's supposed to go. But so we're gonna go with this number 1 slot. Is that a good view? And there's a screw here and a screw here, and they're very small. I had to get a different screwdriver with the head a lot smaller to fit into the screw, so you may have to do that. And when you take this piece off, it seems kind of flimsy. When it's tight, it's nice in there. So we take that off, and this is what it looks like. So it's going to plug in. There's a little latch right there that we put it into, and then it rests on this screw here. This black piece is supposed to be a lock. Once we have it set down, we move this black piece over it to lock it, and then we tighten the screw down. So we'll do that now. So here's our little latch. So we know that it goes in this way because when we looked in, the latch was over here on this side, down like this, and it goes in kind of diagonal. So just like that. And oh, just like that. The black piece, this black part has a little lip on the bottom, so you want that jagged edge right on the edge here, and then there's a black piece right there. So, and I believe that's already tightened this down, so we don't really want to, yeah, that's already in there tight. And this has a little sticker form on it. Can you see this? Yeah. This has a little layer on it, kind of like the heat sink had. I think that's already pre-applied thermal paste, kind of a little thin layer on there, so I'm not going to touch that.
Are you sure that's not a sticker under the...
Oh, this one? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Shoot. Okay, and there's a small one on the bottom too that we have to get. So these actually, so then I think we just move this lock. That pops up. You can pull it out. And yep. Good thing my daughter's here helping me. This little portion comes off of there. So now put this back in. And I think just as at a diagonal, you can just push it in. You'll hear it kind of click in there like the rest of the stuff. Just line up that little ledge, push it down, and then we move our little plastic lock, latch, lever thing, whatever you want to call it, door over there. And then just make sure that with this thermal paste, I guess, we're just, I mean, it's not real sticky, but we don't want to touch it and probably don't want to smear it or whatever. So just line up the big screw on the bottom here, over here. That's what we're going to line up kind of first. And like I said, when it's on here, it's kind of janky, but once you just line the screw up, and once it starts feeding through, you can screw it down. And again, like everything else, you kind of want to do both sides evenly. But these little screws, they're not very big, so you're not screwing a whole lot. These are just kind of barely hand tight, and then that's on there. She's closed. So that is our storage. The main components that we have left are our power supply, which goes kind of on the bottom of the computer, or the bottom of the tower, the case. And we have our graphics card. So everything else is in the motherboard. So right now I'm going to open the case to kind of look at what, because the motherboard's getting kind of heavy now and we have most of our stuff on here. I'm going to open up the case to see what we're dealing with, because the graphics card is pretty big and it's gonna sit on, I think in here, I'm not sure, in one of these slots sideways, and it's kind of big, so it's, it sticks out. So we're gonna open the case and kind of see what we're dealing with. I also am gonna open the power supply, because that's where all of our cords are gonna come from, and we plug everything in on the motherboard. So I think we'll open everything up. I'm gonna read through the manuals and then we'll go from there. All right, guys, so quite a large case, but very similar to the one that I have now. Mine, I think, is just shorter. And so we got the back here. This is that spot I was telling you about on the motherboard that's going to be coming out. This is where you plug in your USBs and keyboard, stuff like that. Fan. This is if you have like hard drives, I believe. Like actual physical hard drives, not the SSD type. And then our power supply is going to stick out of the bottom here, and that's what you plug into the wall, basically. So I guess we have cords down here. I think these are for the fans. Look, it looks like the fans are already pre-installed. We have one here. Two in the top. If you can see, two in the top and three in the front. And so again, with airflow, I believe I guess we'll find out, but I believe air is pulled through the front by these 3 fans, and the 2 in the top and the 1 in the back are exhaust fans, meaning the airflow is going to come through the front and out the top and out the back. So then again, with our motherboard with the heat sink, this is going to be in here like this, and remember, we have our fans pulling from the front and going all the way to the back. So that's going to be sitting in here. All of our fans in the front are going to pull air through the heat sinks and up the top and then out the back. Well, that's pretty cool. The window got a little silk or little silk, wonder if that's magnetic. Looks like there's magnets to hold it closed from the front, so that's pretty cool. So looking in here, we have these screws. If you can come closer, we have these. I believe these are the screws that sit the motherboard on. We will find out, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, possibly 9 up here. I'll have to find out. Pop open the back and make sure this fan cord isn't in the way, but these fans on the case, like I said, are held by screws. So if this is in the way, or we need to move the cord or anything, we can just unscrew this. Same with all the other fans, they're all just screws. So if you want to replace them or get colored ones or whatever, you can do that. So the back is just like mine, my old one. I think maybe a lot of these are like this. You can actually just unscrew these. You can unscrew these, and I believe it just slides right out. But it's a Montech, if you guys are wondering. Yep. So it just kind of is on sliders, and it just slides out. So I believe these are the fans. Maybe the fans are RGB. Well, it says right on the case, RGB fans. So I think that's what that's why these plugs are so big, and they're all roped together because the lights are gonna go together. So but see, guys, that's one of those things where it comes like that. Okay, so there is here we go. So there's screws and 6 fans, Montech X3. This might be this is a guide. So yep, right here. So micro ATX. This looks like motherboard, how the motherboard goes in with screws. These are hard drives, I believe. Yeah, this looks kind of like a hard drive that I had. So these are different hard drive spots. And then let's see, 5 and 6. This will be the power supply with screws, and just the buttons on the top that tell us how to turn it on. The specifications, I guess, are down here. ATX, micro ATX, mini ITX. But again, this is something that Micro Center, the employee can tell me, yep, this motherboard can fit into this tower. So they'll be able to tell you that. It says the front IO is USB, microphone, headphone. So we'll see that like on the top here. Power button. Not sure what these are. Microphone, headphones, 2 USBs. It looks like that's the LED, and then another USB. This might be the lights. I think that's what it said. then these might just be once these light up, these will tell you if it's on or whatever. So all right, yeah, so these are just going to be to the fans, and oh, these are like the USBs and whatnot. So these will all plug into the motherboard, and we will figure out how to do that. Everything is pretty much labeled, or hopefully is labeled. Yep, so if you come in close here, we got, these are all of our cords. So we got HD audio, HDD LED, USB, power, SW. So these are labeled, and then USB 3.0. So these are labeled, and they'll be labeled on they'll be labeled on the motherboard as well, so we'll know where to plug them in at. So right now we're going to take a quick pause. I'm going to look up if I need to do the graphics card onto the motherboard first, or if I put the motherboard into the case first. We'll be right back. All right, guys, so what we're gonna do first actually is, so I unboxed the case and I'm getting the power supply ready. It looks like we should be doing the power supply first, or getting it ready, getting it set up. I guess the good thing is we're not using any physical hard drives, so that takes a lot of cable management out of it. But when we open this up, I mean, look at all of these cords, and there's a ton of cords. Oh, this is the power cord. This is what plugs into the wall. But everything will be labeled again on these. CPU. Some of these are just adapters, but PCIe. So again, I'm not sure exactly what all that stuff means, but don't let this overwhelm you guys. It kind of is overwhelming me, but we'll figure it out. It'll be all mapped out, and even if we have to use YouTube, everybody's using YouTube now, so we'll figure it out. But before we get back to the GPU and the motherboard, we are going to get the power supply set up. Actually, on the back of the box, there's not a guide in here. There's not a guide in here, but was this it? Thermaltake, cool your life. Oh yeah, there it is. But on the back too, it shows main power connector, 24 pin, ATX 12 volt, SATA. So I think these SATAs are the ones for the hard drives. PCIe, peripheral. So some of these we won't use all of these. Okay, guys. So when it says at times 1, that means there's one of them. So we will need this main power connector. But like the SATA, there's 6 of them. We may not use all of them. Peripheral 4-pin, there's 3 of them. We may not use all of those, because a lot of the components that you get will come with their own cords. But yes, let's look. I'm going to look through the manual here. May cut some of this out. So it comes with a couple zip ties and the 4 screws to screw this thing in. We'll make sure that it's sitting upright and just kind of read the letters so that they're upright, I believe. Don't quote me on it, we'll figure it out for sure. But right in the back here, where you plug in the big power plug and the power button. In the back, on the back 4 corners, that's where our screws are going to go. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not sure why every little thing has its own little sticker cover. Looks cool, but you're not going to be seeing this. It's going to be in the bottom of your computer. Or maybe you will see it, I don't know. And that's going to go in the back here. So kind of like this is the back and here's the back. So it's going to kind of sit in here like this. So at least we know that's kind of the orientation. So what we'll do is, I guess, get these cords, figure out which ones we need and where they need to go so that we have easy access to them and to the motherboard. And yeah, guys, so back here, as I stated, these, I think you put hard drives in here, but I know also my old computer, here is some SSD spots. So we got the little stick, kind of like the RAM. We got the stick that we put in. I think you get kind of like a box looking one that goes in here. These are 2 slots for them. Again, more memory. That's what the SSD is. So just a heads up in the back here. So this is, the motherboard will be on the inside here, but you see where these cords are coming through. Again, our power supply will be down here. A lot of our cords are going to come back here, and where this mess is, there is, you see these little slots. This is where we can put cords to come through and to connect to the motherboard once it's in there, right? Again, the motherboard is going to be kind of sitting here. Here's the back where we plug everything into the motherboard, the USB and stuff that I showed you guys earlier. So the back of the motherboard is going to be sitting here on the inside. We screw it in with the screws, and this is looking at from the back. So again, you know, just kind of keeping in mind where your cords are and where we can feed them through. Obviously in the front, we only want as much, we don't want to see a lot of cables and slack and stuff from the front, right? Aesthetically, once we have the lights on and everything's plugged in, we're not going to want a lot of cords hanging and drooping and whatever. So we plug what we need to plug into, and then we'll feed the rest of the cords, and they'll kind of just sit back here. And like I said, like I showed you before with those Velcro straps, that's what we're going to use those Velcro straps for. Is once we get everything plugged in, once we get everything sat in here, we can tie the cords up and make it nice and neat. They call it cable management, and we'll use those Velcro straps. They sort of have these little twisty ties in here right now, but we'll use those Velcro straps to get the cables looking nice and neat. All right, guys, so we ran into one of those hiccups that I was talking about. I'm still adamant that you and I, beginners, can build a PC, but you know what? Sometimes these things happen. What I found on a YouTube video was that the motherboards, the new bigger motherboards, and for bigger and better PCs, you're gonna have 2 CPU plugins here. And also talking to a friend, this is the power supply. He is saying that I'm gonna want higher than 600 watts. And then also, this is not, they call it like a fully modular, and it comes with kind of the plugins in the back with a whole bunch of cords. And this one just has what cords it provides right here already hooked in. So I kind of was, you know, getting these things. This is like the big plugs into the motherboard. But so the CPU, this is the only one we have. One 8-pin and we need 2 of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and there's 2 of them. And so right here on the box, that is going to be this ATX 12 volt. We only have 1. So today's Saturday. Micro Center's open on Sunday. We will head over there after church tomorrow. I got my receipt. I only bought this stuff last weekend. So they're always really good at Micro Center customer service. So I have no issue. I know they'll just return this and I can get a better one, whatever. I may have to pay the difference. So, but that's what it is, guys. And again, you know, whatever, the Warriors in the comments or whatnot, or, you know, they'll have their heyday, but we can still do it, guys. Like I said, it's a hiccup. We'll go change out the power supply, get the right one, and then we'll come back and we'll finish up tomorrow. What my buddy was saying was we are on the right track. He usually, so I asked him kind of where we're at, right, with we got the case, we got the power supply, the motherboard with what it has, and then the graphics card. He typically gets the motherboard mounted into the case before he does the graphics card. And so we'll probably go that route tomorrow. We'll get an upgraded power supply. And he said he likes the fully modular ones where it gives you a whole bunch of cords and then it has the plugins in the back. He likes that because then you can pick and choose what cords you want to use. So like I said, I think a lot of these are the SATA cords, and that's for like hard drives and stuff. And being that we already put the hard drive in directly into the motherboard, so we won't need a plug-in at all. So, you know, this will just be wrapped up in those Velcro straps. So we're gonna do that. He did say that plugging in the CPU, the top left here, these are very difficult to plug in when you have the motherboard screwed on into the case. So we may, you know, we're probably gonna get these plugged in, and then we will screw the motherboard into the case and then kind of go from there. You know, get our graphics card mounted in here. He was saying that these that we looked at, the silver and these 2 black, that's kind of the different graphics card slots that you can use. And with the graphics card that we have, it's pretty big. So this is the first slot, but with the heat sink here, we're probably going to use this middle slot down here. But we will get back to that tomorrow, guys. I'll cut all this fluff out so you won't even see it. So we'll see you then. All right, guys, we are back. It is the next day. We went to Micro Center and we need to point out a few things. So according to the Micro Center employee, the power supply would have worked. So he is claiming that the 2 CPU plugins on the motherboard, the second one is for overclocking. And again, like terms that I don't know what they mean, but overclocking your CPU, your RAM, your graphics card. That is what that second slot is for, is what he told me. Discussing some of this with a buddy of mine last night who builds PCs. He recommended that I upgrade the power supply anyways from the 600 watt to 800 to 1000. So we did go ahead, and as well, like I showed you on that old power supply, all of the cords that came out, we got a higher wattage power supply as well as what's called a fully modular power supply, where all the cords come with, and we can pick and choose which cords we want to use instead of having that just huge junk of cords. And if we don't use them, you know, we just have to tie them in with the cable management at the end. So we went ahead and did that. I got a little ahead of myself here. I laid stuff out today, but I'll show you this case. Looking at the back here,
all the fans and everything come in this. So this is the Montech X3 mesh, and you know, I was super confused about this. I'm trying to find a YouTube video or something online to tell me what I'm supposed to do exactly with these. And what they said was there'll be a Molex, that's what they called it, but basically a connector that goes from here, the power, to straight to the power supply. So none of this is going to plug into the motherboard. And all these cords come with the case. So it looks like a mess, but I have they had little twisties. I took all the twisties out, and if you'll see these little things in the back. So one note, all these holes for cables to go in and out, I would recommend, my old case actually had it too. Some of the cases come with, there's rubber all around this, and just kind of like little grooves in here, and it's all rubber, so that kind of holds the cables back. Plus you can't see, like it's black rubber here, and there'll be like a little cut or a jagged groove, and there's kind of pressure there, and you can slide cables in and out, and it looks a lot better from the front for cable management. I did kind of see that in a video somewhere, that a lot of the cases, my old one, like I said, comes with these are just open holds, so I have nothing. You know, we'll see once we get to the cable management and getting the plugins into the motherboard, that, you know, there's nothing in here. It's just open. It's an open slot, and that's all of them. But with our Velcros, I'm going to try to use these. Now once you put it through here, you can't really you know, wrap these around. I did do one here, which I wrapped the cords, and then I put it through the slot. So if I can undo this here, just the very back portion. So I got all the cords wrapped together, and you see it's away from the case, and then with just a little bit of slack that I have left, I put it through that little latch in the case, so that the cords can sit next to the case there. And that might actually be too fat for the case, for the cover on the back to go, so we'll find out, but hopefully that'll be okay. But all of these cords really are for kind of the fans, all the fans. So the case comes with 6 fans, a lot of these, and then the rest are just all these different things up here, the USB, the LEDs. And so some of these plugins I have put through the front, and again, I kind of went through and separated the ones that aren't the fans out, because again, the fans, this will be connected straight to the power supply, and then the rest of this stuff I put through the front, and they're in here. So this stuff is what we're gonna plug into the motherboard. Those are labeled, and we got the quick guide here that tells us exactly where on the motherboard, the JFP1, and then which ones to plug in where. So it's kind of very little ones, and so it looks like the cords look like those. So I also found out last night, or today, I've been trying to look all over for an in-depth manual to the motherboard, and all I have is this quick installation. So I had to look up a PDF online, just because I was kind of confused at looking at some of these things when we get ready to plug in here. But I found out we're going to do the graphics card at the very end. So right now we'll just open the power supply, get the cords out, get them ready. We'll get the motherboard into the case, and then we'll start plugging into the motherboard, all the pieces, get everything plugged into the power supply, and then we'll do the graphics card at the very end, and then that should be it. So here's the humongous bag of cords, all the different cables, giant bag full. So as you remember the other one, this is what the back looks like. So we get to choose which cords come out of here.
and basically just the ones that we need, instead of having that big jumbo thing of cords out of that old power supply. We will pick and choose which ones we want. And there is a fan in these power supplies, and doing kind of some of my research last night too, some people did say to install these upside down so that the fan shoots air down, but this goes in the bottom of the case. So this is kind of like the thermal paste issue, guys. It's kind of debatable online and in the community of how to do that. Obviously, if the bottom of your case is just solid metal or plastic or whatever, then you don't want the fan blowing in there. But a lot of the cases will have a mesh or something. But depending on, if you put this on the floor. Anyways, I'm putting mine facing up, so you can decide for yourself when you get to that. My computer's not going to be on the floor, but I'm going to just put the fan facing up because we have a lot of air coming through and out the tower anyways. So we need the power cord for sure that plugs into the wall. So I believe this very big one we need for sure. And there's no manual in this box either, so I will say I saw a comment. A lot of stuff is labeled nowadays, guys, so, and you can look, we have YouTube nowadays, but I did see a comment about a guy saying how hard it was back in the 90s to build a computer. None of the stuff on the motherboard is labeled back in the day, so you can imagine how hard it was. But I sort of looked up to see which cords we need for sure. So this big one, I think for sure. There's a lot of SATA cables. There's 8 SATA cables that we won't need. Those are for the hard drives, like I was saying yesterday or a few minutes ago, whatever. With the hard drive that we have, it's planted straight into the motherboard, so we won't need any of those 8 cords. I'm gonna figure out what those look like and then put them to the side. Alright guys, I hate to say this, but we are kind of guessing at this point because some of these cables aren't labeled. I've counted all of them and I have the right number that's in the box, but I'm looking at a YouTube video now to sort of see. This one does say CPU on it, so that one will plug into the motherboard, and then this goes into the back of the, this is our big kind of 24 into the motherboard. And I am sort of guessing on that because they're not labeled. Luckily, you just kind of count the holes, and I'm pretty sure that's where it goes. And I only have one that says CPU, so that was the issue I was having. Now there's multiple that say PCIe, and on the power supply it says CPU and PCIe, so I'm going to go with that. I'm going to use the one that is labeled, I only have one that's labeled CPU, so I'm going to use that one for the CPU number 1 slot, and then I'm going to do one of the PCIe cables for the second CPU spot on the motherboard. And they said to kind of get all these cables plugged into the back, the ones that you need before putting it into the case, because it makes it a lot easier than trying to plug this in if you screw the power supply into your case. And I'm going to kind of just look at the motherboard and see what we need, because again, some of these aren't labeled, but these ones with the yellow say 600 watt. Well, that's, yeah, and that's all they say. And on the box, I'm not sure which one it is, but these plugins only go to the 12 volt 2x6. And I'm just going to look on the motherboard to see where that is. if we need it. I'm not really seeing a plug-in on the motherboard for that. So actually I'm not sure that we need this one. Maybe it's for the graphics card. We'll put it to the side. So we are going to open the graphics card to see what kind of plug-in we need. The graphics card does come with a quick installation guide. Okay, so the graphics card does have a plug-in for the PCIe cables. Also, looking on the back of this graphics card, a tip I saw online was making sure if you are using a graphics card and not just the integrated graphics from the computer chip, that you want to make sure your monitors are plugged into the graphics card itself in the back. So we'll see that once this is in the case. And I'm already knowing that one of my monitors has sort of a screw-in plug-in, and this graphics card only has, it looks like, HDMI and whatever DP is, direct port maybe. It's got 3 direct ports and 1 HDMI. So I know I have 2 monitors. One of them is, I do have an HDMI cable for it, but the other one is sort of the old screw-in type. And there's nothing on here for that. The DVI, oh, display port, HDMI, and DVI. I think it's like a white, it's a white, and I know I've seen blue too, blue or white screw-ins. So that's probably a cable that I'll have to get, or an adapter or something for both of my monitors to be able to go into the back of the graphics card. Okay, so as far as the yellow 600 watt, Google is telling me that that's the 12 volt 2x6 connector, and it is for high-end graphics cards, which I don't believe mine is. Mine just has that PCIe connector looking one. Because that is not going to go into there. That's going to take one of these PCIe plugins. 4. There's 3 and 2. This will click together, but this is labeled CPIE. And so this little 2-way one will clip together with the 3 to make 8. So the 4-way ones here is the Molex. That's what we'll plug the fan into, or the fans, that daisy chain fans from the case. So these will be 2 that we don't use as well. The SATA, they have a bunch of these like side connectors. Those go into hard drives that you would put in, either hard drive or SSDs. Okay, my mistake. I am blind, even though I have glasses. I do have the 2 CPU cables, so that is good. That is a good thing. So we got the 1, and then this is the 2. Cool. I was freaking out for a second. So the Molex one, this is what goes into the power supply, but at the end of it, it's got one of these little ones. So I am assuming that goes onto the motherboard on either the fan, or there's an RGB. We'll try the RGB one, and hopefully that fits in there, and then we'll just kind of see when we power on the computer if that works. And then the daisy chain will just plug into one of these. So there's a bunch of these, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you got 4 different fan plugins, but since all of ours are connected to one, what I read online is I can just plug it into one of these, and since they're all connected, it should work. Alright guys, so I was confused as well. So the PCIe cable is the one that is for the graphics card, and it has a solid 8 right here on the end, and then they have 2 6x2s, and one of them connects really well. And the back end, this one, I'm not sure. That one I'd have to bend a lot, so I'm not going to use that one. But the Google AI overview is saying that the 8 pin goes into the power supply, and the 6x2 goes into the graphics card. So then the back of our power supply looks like this. So we're not using a whole bunch. We're using this one Molex one for the fans, this one PCIe for the graphics card, one two for the CPU, the 2 CPU slots on the motherboard, and then the big one. These two are for the big one, the big 24 one on the motherboard, the big 24 one on the side there. Also, if you have this Montech case, how I showed earlier, the Velcro strap that pulls the glass door open, there's hinges, and actually you can pull the glass out, I believe. So I'm going to try that, and it'll help a lot. You can just set the glass door to the side so we can work in the, because the hinges don't stop. The glass will just keep going, I believe. So we will check that out. So if you can see from there, the tempered glass, and it's magnetic too. So when you open it, it swings all the way. It'll keep going. But I believe, just pull it up and it can pull up off the hinges. Set that to the side. And then we'll put in we will screw in the motherboard first. Actually, we'll put in the power supply first and get the cords kind of out and about where we want them, and then we'll screw in the motherboard and start plugging things in. And I did see too, depending on the case, how I mentioned earlier, the power supply with the fan facing up or down. Actually, I seen a video of a guy who had to stand his power supply on the side. But looking at the back of this on the bottom, it's gonna sit flat with the fan facing up. And it might be a tight fit, but I think this open piece in the bottom where the instruction manual came, I'm gonna try to unscrew that out of there so that there's more room for the cables to go. Yep, so that slides right out. And this says HDD and SSD, so that's just a slot for hard drives. It's got these little walls with little seating plates on the bottom, and it's just held in by screws. And it doesn't really leave any openings or anything on the bottom of the case, so it's not an issue removing this. And this will just give us a lot of room in the case now for the cords. If you're going to be upgrading or getting more storage, you might want to hold on to something like this, but I know that 2 terabytes for me is going to be plenty. I'll probably never exceed that, and I'll probably never need more. But if I do, you can just get the SSD, and even if we get, like I showed earlier on the back here, these are also spots for SSDs. So, but that was when I was trying to slide in the power supply, that compartment was right in the way of all the big massive cords. So maybe just another one of those compatibility things. It's a bigger power supply than the last one, so maybe the cords of the last one would have fit in there better. Dude, this power supply doesn't fit in here.
What?
Goodness, man.
Is that okay?
Well, it fits, but I can't screw it in. Alright guys, actually I called my buddy and problem averted. It does have to be turned upside down. The screws fit just perfectly when it's upside down. He told me that the fan pulls air in, and on the bottom of the case there is mesh, So as long as, he said a lot of cases and GPUs are set up like that, or power supplies. So there's mesh underneath and the computer stands, you know, an inch or two off the ground or off the desk. I'm going to have mine on the desk anyways, not on the ground. And so that the fan pulls air into the power supply to cool it. He also said it only turns on when it's heavily being, you know, if you're gaming hardcore or whatever. So I guess it's not on very often. But before people roast me in the comments or whatever, just remember I haven't done this. This is my second build, and the last one was 9 years ago. And I'm not in IT or anything. This is just to help anybody else that is a beginner that wants to do this and try it. We can figure it out and we'll get through it together. So we will continue on our adventure. When we put in an upside down, it fits perfect. Comes with 4 little screws in the power supply box. It's a tiny bag, so just look for it. Just make sure you're not throwing stuff around when you open that box. And there's 4 sort of, one in each corner. The top left one is indented a little bit, but same with everything else. We'll kind of just hand tighten and just do crisscross one corner a little bit, and then crisscross diagonal corner a little bit. So now that it is in there fully, I'm going to route our cords up through the case, and I left the labeled ends for the motherboard. So other than that Molex it looks kind of like a big mess, but other than the Molex for the fans, this will stay in the back or the bottom, and the Molex will plug in here, and then the rest I'm going to put in through that hole on the bottom there. I'll get them through there like these and have them sitting so that when we lay this on its side, we can screw in the motherboard here and then start plugging things in. So I'll just separate the Molex one to the back here, and then all the rest we'll put up through the front. Actually, the Molex one does have that part that goes onto the motherboard. But we'll remember that, and we'll do it at the end. Actually, sorry, we're gonna leave them in the bottom and get the motherboard screwed in, and then because we may want to route them up through one of these holes and not have every cord coming up through the bottom. I just thought of that. So we'll store all the cords on the bottom here next to the power supply so that we can lay it on its side or lay it on the back. And we do have this back fan here. These screws, these spacers. So the motherboard came with spacers and screws, but the case also came with spacers. So I believe I just used the case spacers and then used the motherboard screws. There's 9 of them, and I'm not sure if this fan is going to be in the way or not. So we'll put it in and see. If it is in the way, then we just remove we can remove the screws and move it or figure that out. Okay, so it was kind of a tight fit, but we did get it. The back ISO, where everything plugs into the back or whatever they call it, it is a pretty tight fit under the fan, but make sure all your wires are out of the way. But it should fit. And then the back part will be flush here on the back plug-in here, and the screw holes are lining up, so we are going to get those in there. And I think they give you a bunch of extra screws, guys. We'll find out, but It comes in a little bag, and it comes with this little adapter. You can put a screwdriver into the one end, and the other end can fit one of the spacers I was talking about. So you got the spacer and you got the screw, and the spacer, that adapter part goes on the top, and the screw part just screws into the case. But the case already comes with the spacers, so we're just going to use the screws. But that adapter part, that's where the screwdriver head goes into, and then the bottom, the spacers fit right in there. And you would screw the spacer into the case using that adapter and your screwdriver. Oh, actually, I guess there's different types of screws in here, so actually we'll have to take everything out and see what we have. We need 9 screws, so there's only 3 spacers, so I don't know if I'm doing something wrong. Let me know in the comments. What a mess. First things first, I'm going to take out the motherboard and make sure I count 9 spacers in the case, because I only have 3 spacers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 spacers. They all look to be the same size. Yeah, so it's like 3 different heights and thickness of screws, so I guess I have to find which one goes into those spacers. Feels like that's the right one. So hopefully we have 9 of those. Also, if you have a screwdriver with a magnetic tip, it would be very helpful with these little screws trying to put them in. Man, without a magnetic tip screwdriver, it's hard to get some of these in here. Alright guys, so I got that in. I'm going to try to use the flashlight on my phone to show you if I can. Well, I don't know if I can, but we got all 9 of them in, and 2 of them seem to kind of just keep twisting. I don't know if the spacers are, I don't know if they're stripped, but yeah, all the rest, 7 of them are real tight and nice, and 2 of them just kind of seem to spin. So it is in there really firm, so that's good. And so we will start plugging things in, and we'll do the graphics card last. So right now we'll start plugging things into the motherboard. We will start with the top front things on the actual case, the buttons that I showed you with all of these, because these are labeled. These are all labeled Power SW, Power LED negative, Power LED positive, Reset SW, USB HD audio, and USB 3.0. And so those go right on the bottom of the motherboard here, these pins. So because I have to hold the camera, I won't show you guys that part, but just make sure you're lining up the pins. So like for instance, the USB 3 right here, the bottom left doesn't have a pin, and on the USB 3.0 there's a block in that corner one, so that'll go where the missing pin is. So just line those up, and I'll be using the quick guide again, because some of these guys is literally the power LED plus and minus is one little pin, and so you know all these are going right on here. They're not all connected, So just make sure to look at the mapping on this and line up the right ones. So I'm going to do that. I can't really show you with the camera, but be careful. You don't want to bend pins, but they'll go on there. Just look at the map, and what I'll do is, so there's a no pin, and you kind of just map on that, right? Because they got them numbered here. And you'll just map from the no pin and do this side and then do this side, or however you want to do it, but that's how you can tell which is which. So I'll get back to you after that. Okay, so we got everything from the top plugged in, and now we will plug in the fans, everything from the power supply to the motherboard, and as well as that fan that we left, or the Molex RGB. I know there was an RGB1 slot somewhere. We're gonna do the fan last because it's the little small one. You got to get creative with your cable management and wiring and where you're gonna go, guys, because the space can be very limited in some of these spots. All right, guys. So I'm running out of memory on the GoPro cam. We're close to about 4 hours of video time that I'm gonna have to edit down, but I'm gonna finish connecting the cables. I will kind of show you the end results where things are plugged in. I needed my daughter to help me with the CPU plugins. They're in the very top left corner. They're very hard to get in, but so you'll need small hands, or you could plug it in before you screw your motherboard down to the case. So either way, kind of plan that out beforehand. So I'll show you guys the end result once I get everything plugged in, and then all we have left is the graphics card. All right, guys, so I'm running out of time on my memory card of the GoPro, and I already put the graphics card in, but basically you pick which. There was clearance on the top graphics card. There was clearance here, so I used the first graphics card slot. Otherwise there's the middle one or the bottom one, and then you just, I kind of laid it in here, didn't plug it in, and made sure that I had clearance and everything, and then I saw which ones I needed to remove back here. Basically this screw is a lock, this pops up, and then you just unscrew the two that you don't need, take them out. They look just like this, and you'll reuse the screw that goes in the top. That'll go in the graphics card in the back. And then as far as cable management goes, guys, this is the power supply to the graphics card. Those front ends that I told you, and these are kind of pulled out to the back already, so I kind of just velcroed what I could. It's not the prettiest. This is the long 24 pin. The fans and things I just pushed through the back here, and then I had my daughter help me with these. You're gonna need small hands to get the CPU ones in the top left. I'll show you the back cable management, and then we will try to fire it up. All right, guys, looking at the back here, it is kind of a jumbled mess, and I hope the camera can pick up. I'm trying to use my flashlight on my phone here, but I got a lot of cables down in the bottom here where I took out that slot, so a lot of them we can just push in, and then I velcroed what I could in the back here. You can see it is pretty much a mess, and some look better, some of these look better than others, but the back case is going to go on the back here, right? So nobody really sees this. And I'm at the point where I just want to turn it on and see if it works. And so as long as I can get the case on, I'm happy. The Molex plugged into the, you can see down here the Molex plugged right into the daisy chain of the fans, the case fans. So I did have a rough time it's just going to be one of the four pin Molex, and there's a bunch of them, so I just shoved them in here, and then seeing which one I could just slip up to here, and then the rest just kind of push to the back. What you want to do is up front, when you get everything in, you want to pull. This is where those black rubber things would come in handy. You can pull, because these cords can bend pretty good. So you'll pull the slack out once you have it plugged into the motherboard, and you'll pull the slack back, and you leave the slack in the in the back. That's kind of what the whole purpose is. So you have the aesthetics up front, looking real nice and tight and clean. So we did that to the best of our ability. And then in the back here, like I said, I'm just gonna make sure that I can get the case to close, and then we will try to fire it up. All right, guys, so finally we got it plugged in. We got it up and running. All the fans and everything are working properly. And when you plug it in and first fire it up, you get this BIOS, it's called. So, successful build. All we got to do is install the operating system, Windows 10, which I probably won't have that in this video. You have to go to windows.com. You have to have a flash drive with at least like 16 gigs of storage, and you want like a clean flash drive. You want to format it so everything's off of it. I bought a 32 gig, and you want to format it when you buy like the 32 gig, it has a folder and some little things on it. So you want to format it completely, remove everything. And then you go to Microsoft.com, get the Windows installation, Windows 10 or 11, or I got 11, whatever operating system you want. There's other ones too, I guess, but Windows is what I've always used. And so anyways, I'll probably leave that stuff out, guys. You put it on a flash drive, and then from here, you type in the product key code once you purchase Windows 11. But that's it, guys. I got to put the tempered glass back on, but it's looking pretty neat and nifty. Everything's working. It seems pretty quiet right now without the tempered glass. You can kind of hear the fans. I'm hoping when I put the glass back on that you don't really hear them, but with this case, the six RGB fans, they're just like that. I don't know that they change colors or anything. If they do, I think it's just solid colors. But yeah, that's the build, guys, and that's how you do it. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope maybe it gave encouragement to some guys, some people that want to build their own first computer. And I also bought, probably at the beginning of the video, I will hopefully have a little segment. I bought a microphone and a new webcam. So I'll put my two builds that I have side by side, and hopefully the front end of this video will be something filmed on the new PC. So other than that, guys, appreciate you sticking around. I know even after editing, this is going to be a long video, probably over an hour, but I appreciate you. Hope you enjoyed it, and as always, God bless.